When you are starting your new business as a licensed Arizona motor vehicle dealer, one of the first and most important decisions is identifying the structure of business, what is known as your business entity. Okay, so there's not one choice for every business, and there are different legal and tax considerations when you want to enter into this decision. You have to pick the structure that best meets your needs, and it is recommended that you consult with competent legal and tax professionals in order to make an informed decision about what entity type is best for you. So in Arizona, there are several business structures, but I want to give you some good contact information. First of all, this is the Secretary of State Corporations Division, which is 602-542-3026, or you can certainly give them a quick email at answers@azcc.gov. And they are definitely going to cover a lot of the answers to questions that you might have. But I want to go through here and talk about different types of business entities, because there are different types of business entities, and you will definitely need to decide on which one is going to be best for you. First of all, let's talk about a sole proprietorship. The simplest and most common form of business organization is a business that is owned by one individual, and you can create a sole proprietorship, which requires no formal Arizona filing. Profits and losses are reported on a separate schedule within your personal tax return when you are a sole proprietor. Now, the advantages are that it is the easiest to set up because it doesn't require the filing of any paperwork. The state of Arizona does not require the registration of proprietorships. Profits are only taxed once on the owner's personal tax returns. The owner has complete control over the business and makes all the decisions. Tax forms are not complicated. However, there are disadvantages. The owner is exposed to unlimited legal liabilities. If you lose a lawsuit, you can lose your home, car, and other personal assets. Also, proprietorships cannot accept outside capital from outside investors, and borrowing money is a little more difficult. Say, for example, if you're wanting to get startup loans and things like that, banks are reluctant to make business loans to sole proprietorships. There's also what's called a general partnership, and this is an association of two or more persons that have joined together to carry out a business for profit. Each partner may contribute skills, money, or time, and each shares in the company's profits and losses. Earnings are reported at the end of the year with personal tax returns. A limited partnership, unlike general partnerships, a limited partnership can limit the liability and the involvement of certain partners. And this is attractive for, when you're maybe looking for investment partners who would like to participate in the profits of the business, but not necessarily in the risks or daily operations. There's also a limited liability partnership and a limited liability limited partnership. Did you catch all those? Arizona's limited liability partnership statutes permit both general partnerships and limited partnerships to elect limited liability for their general partners. The owners report, they report the company profits and losses on their personal income taxes. The business itself is not subject to federal income tax as corporations are. Now, the advantages of LLPs are they are very easy to form, and a partnership can bring together a group of individuals with different talents to share the responsibilities of running a business such as a dealership. If the partnership agreement permits, then they could continue to exist if one of those partners dies. A disadvantage to an LLP are partners are exposed to unlimited liabilities. And sometimes owners will not always agree on decisions and things like that. This could lead to some management conflicts. Partners share the profits of the business, and they will not always feel that they're being adequately compensated for their contributions and services. So that's something you want to think about on an LLP. And that advantage of a limited liability partnership is the division of responsibilities and the ease of formation as well. So that definitely has tax advantages as well because it avoids corporate income tax. Now, it can be difficult to find compatible partners, and an owner's salary or wage cannot be treated as an expense. Therefore, it is not tax deductible. Next, I want to talk about limited liability companies, that's an LLC, and corporations. So should you decide to start a limited liability company or corporation, you will need to file with the Arizona Corporations Commission. A limited liability is a very flexible form of enterprise that blends the elements of a partnership and corporate structures. LLCs are very popular for dealers because they're similar to a corporation, but owners have limited liability for the debts and actions of that LLC. So this is a very, very popular way for Arizona dealers to start. But it's up to you. I'm not giving you legal advice here, but there are a lot of dealers that decide to choose an LLC. Other features of an LLC are more like a partnership. They provide management flexibility, and they also have the benefit of what's called pass-through taxation. Many Arizona dealers start as an LLC. There are pros and cons, okay? First of all, one of the biggest advantages, the owners of an LLC do have limited liability. The owner's personal assets, in most cases, are protected from judgments and defaults on company debts. You know, an owner can choose how the business pays their taxes. It could be with a proprietorship or a partnership or a corporation. Arizona does not require LLCs to have annual meetings. An LLC is not required to have a board of directors, and the number of shareholders of an LLC is unlimited. The disadvantages, well, you are going to have to file articles of incorporation with the state of Arizona, and owners must create what's called an operating agreement that defines management authority and limits decision-making risks. Okay, so you have to have a simple document called an operating agreement. And you can usually you can Google these. You can probably Google Arizona LLC operating agreement sample, and you should be able to find a template that you should be able to use, or certainly get legal advice to draw you one up. Now let's talk about a corporation. This is the most complex type of business organization. It is formed by law and has a separate business entity completely distinct from those who own it, and has its own rights and responsibilities. And there's a couple of different types of corporations. There's an S corporation, which sometimes we refer to as an S corp. It allows you protection of the corporation with some of the flexibility of a partnership, and elects not to be subject to federal corporation income tax. To qualify for S corporation status, a corporation or the other eligible entity needs to be treated as a corporation, and they must meet certain requirements. They're a little more complicated in nature. Now, the pros of a S corp combine the benefits of the proprietorship and LLCs with the liability protection of a C corp. And I do want you to be aware, this is not a very common business entity for a dealer. And it does tend to be a little more technical in nature, but you could have an attorney that refers you to that type of corporate setup. Finally, there's a not-profit corporation. Arizona allows the formation of a not-for-profit corporation, but if the corporation intends to be tax exempt, it must apply for that status through the IRS. And there are actually more than a dozen types of corporations approved by the IRS, and these are usually developed for charitable, religious, educational, or scientific purposes. So that is something, there are a very small handful of dealerships that operate as a not-for-profit. So that is something to definitely keep in mind. But before we get started here, I want to give you some really good contact information, once again, with the Arizona Corporations Commission. If you have any questions, they're going to have answers for you. And they're located at 1200 West Washington in Phoenix, 85007. And here's a great phone number for you. Please make a note of this phone number, 602-542-3026. 602-542-3026. You can also send an email, answers@azcc.gov, okay? And then there's their website as well. When you have decided on your business entity, I'm going to show you how easy it is to register your business with the Arizona Corporations Commission if required. And since you don't currently have an account, we're going to go ahead and click on that big green register button like you see right there. And you're going to go ahead and enter your name and your password, and it will send you a temporary password to log in. So you're going to go to your email with your password, and you'll go ahead and log in with that password that was sent to you. And since you're on the Corporations Commission's dashboard, you can view alerts. You can check out your correspondence. You can, check out your filing status and your shopping cart as well, and also check your recent payments. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started here. When you are starting your dealership, you're going to need to decide on a business name, and also you need to make sure that another dealer is not using the name that you want to use. So the first thing you want to do is click on reserved name that you see right there at the very top. Now let's go ahead and click on the reserve and enter your name. You can enter the name that you want to use for your dealership right here. And for this example, I entered the name Arizona Motors. So let's just say we want to be Arizona Motors. You can enter that dealership name and click search. Well, as you can see here, there already is an Arizona Motors. That name is taken and they are in active status. So you cannot become Arizona Motors in this scenario because it's already taken by another dealer. So let's go ahead and try a different name. I just typed in the name XYZ Motors and then clicked search. And as you can see here, that name is available. So you can go ahead and reserve that name right now, which I strongly encourage you to do. When you found the name that no other dealer is using and you want to reserve it, go ahead and do it while you're on the website here. So you're going to enter all of your contact information, as you see right here. And you'll always need to agree to the terms and conditions, as you see. And then you need to go ahead and pay your filing fee, okay? And as you see, there are different rates that are charged for a name registration. If you want a regular name registration, there's no charge to that. But if you want to go ahead and expedite it and make sure that no other dealer gets that, you can also do a same day, next day, and they have a 2-hour registration. If you have found some incredible name that you want to grab immediately, and make sure no one ever uses it, they can actually do a 2-hour filing for you. So you'll need to decide what is going to be best for you, and you can go ahead and you pay for that securely right there. Now, there's another step that we need to be aware of here, okay? I'm going to show you how to go ahead and create your business. Now, you've reserved your name. So the next thing you want to do is go ahead and create the business entity. And for this training scenario, I'm going to show you how to start a dealership as a limited liability company, or what's known as an LLC. And I'm not telling you that you need to be an LLC. You definitely need to do some research and find out which business entity is best for you. So for this training scenario, though, if you are an LLC, I'm going to show you how to register your LLC. So you would click Create a New LLC. And you'll need to decide whether you're an LLC or what's called a professional LLC. Let's just do the basic LLC for this training scenario. And then you're going to go ahead and enter the effective date. And I also want you to enter, you'll need to be aware that you need to enter what's called your NAICS code from the drop-down box. So you're just going to click Retail Trade and then Used car dealers. Once again, you want to make sure those are correct, okay? So make sure and select retail trade and then used car dealers. Those are called your NAICS code. Then you're going to simply enter the business name that you want to reserve, that you've already reserved. Enter all your contact information again, including the actual address of your dealership. Now, for some reason, you're maybe filing this in advance and you're not sure where your address is, you can always go in here and amend that address. So let's say you're starting an LLC now and you haven't found a location. You could put the LLC at your home, but no matter what, before you apply for your license, when you have your location, you definitely need to update this and amend it to make sure that all your addresses are correct for your licensed location. Okay, so do please keep that in mind. Verify all of your information there. And you're going to go screenshot through screenshot here and easily enter all of your information. Now, with that being said, I do want you to be aware that if you live in another state and your dealership is going to be in the state of Arizona, then you also have to have what's called your registered agent in the state. And there's many Arizona companies that will act as a registered agent for a minimal fee every year. If you are an out-of-state owner, you definitely need to have a registered agent in the state of Arizona. So if this applies to you, just Google Arizona registered agent. I know companies that will charge $35 a year to act as your registered agent. Now, the next thing you want to do is you want to go ahead and upload any corporation's documents that you may have already filed, okay? So, or articles of corporation and things like that. So if you are missing a document, you can always save this, but you do have to have those articles. Just Google, LLC articles of incorporation sample, and you'll be able to come up with a very simple operating agreement, okay? So make sure that you have submitted your articles of organization, and then you always need to make sure that you agree to those terms, so do please keep that in mind. And then one more step, just like reserving your name, you're going to need to go ahead and pay for your, say for example, an LLC registration fees, okay? So you have to pay for the name registration, but you're also going to pay your Corporations Commission registration fees, and as you can see, there's several different rates right there, so you can choose the best rate option. And then if you have done two separate filings, this will total up, as you see right here in your shopping cart. So if you do them at the same time, register the name and the business articles at the same time, you'll see your shopping cart there, and you can easily pay for that. And then you're going to see basically This is your Secretary of State filing document that's going to look very similar to this. And the actual name is called your Corporations Commission filing document. So you want to save a copy of this on your computer because you are going to be uploading a copy of this if you are filing any business entity with the Corporations Commission, which I'm assuming that you probably will unless you're a sole proprietor. So you're definitely going to need to submit a copy of this when you actually apply for your license. So definitely keep a copy of this. And, I also want you to be aware, if you ever have any questions, they have a help submission page right on the Corporations Commission website, and they'll get answers back to you. So you can definitely fill out that form that you see right there on the screen. And then once again, I want to give you that contact information with the Corporations Commission. They're located at 1200 West Washington in Phoenix, 85007. And I want to again, give you that great reference phone number, 602-542-3026, or you can certainly drop them an email, answers@azcc.gov. I hope that you are finding this information very, very helpful. Next, I want to show you a very easy part of the process of obtaining your license, and I want you to be aware that very soon you are going to have complete oversight over some very, very large financial transactions. Okay. And a lot of times when your customers are buying a vehicle from you, it's going to be their largest investment. I also want you to be aware that this tends to be a very high profit business that you're going to be starting. And in fact, I'm going to make a very bold, confident prediction. I predict that your income will go up in the next year. Many times, an individual's income increases dramatically because of this high markup industry that you're getting into. And when you find out what a vehicle's selling at a dealer auction wholesale and what you're selling it to a retail customer a week or so later, you'll probably wish you've gotten a dealer's license many, many years ago. So most dealers need to have what's called an employer identification number. Now, if you are a sole proprietor with no employees, you do not need an employer identification number. However, if you're a sole proprietor with employees or any other type of business entity, you're going to need to have what's called an employer identification number. And there's a couple of purposes of this. Number one, it's the number that the IRS is going to assign to your new business for tax purposes, but it also shows the state that you are going to pay income tax on your new income. And I want to give you a warning here. I want to warn you to set aside some of your profits, because so many times I talk to a person who got their license for the very first time and they didn't set aside enough money to pay their taxes the following year. And then you get hit by a huge tax bill. I don't want you to be intimidated by this. I just want to make sure that you set aside some of your profits, because you're going to be paying the federal government and the state of Arizona an increase in taxes. So to show the state of Arizona that you are going to pay taxes on your newfound income, unless you're a sole proprietor, you need to have an employer identification number. And I'm going to show you how to do that right now. And with some of my training classes that I have given all over the United States, I want to show you how to do this, but there are companies that will charge you $500. And I recently gave a class where I said there are companies that will charge you $500, and a guy raised his hand and said he just paid $600 to a company to get his employer identification number. Well, it's free of charge. So if you want to go out and pay $500 or $600 to have a company do this for you, you can, or you can do what I'm going to show you right now, and how to get your EIN, that's your employer identification number, at absolutely no charge. And we're going to go right to the IRS website, go to irs.gov, and you'll scroll down there to the bottom right where it says apply for an employer identification number. And it kind of gives you a quick overview here to let you know what an EIN is for. And now we're going to select our business entity. So you'll need to select your business entity. Maybe you've decided to be a sole proprietor, a partnership, or corporation. So once again, for a training scenario, I want to show you how to get an employer identification number as an LLC. That's your limited liability company. And once again, I'm not telling you need to be an LLC. I'm just letting you know if you are an LLC, you'll be filing for your employer identification number just like this. So you'd click LLC if that's what you are. You'll put the number of persons on the LLC with you. Maybe you're one person, maybe you've got 2 or 3 or 4, and then you'll need to obviously select the state of Arizona. And then the IRS wants to know why you want an employer identification number, because you are starting a new business. So you definitely need to select that. And then you'll need to put the name of one person who's going to be on the license, one person on that LLC. And you'll need to select that you are one of the owners right there. And then you're going to select the physical address of your dealership. So make sure you're selecting the correct address of your actual dealership. You're going to put your phone number. And they also give you an opportunity to have a separate mail forwarding address if that's something that's convenient for you. And then you're going to type your dealership name. You're going to type the county that your dealership is in, and you're in the state of Arizona. And you live in the state of Arizona, you'll select Arizona twice. If you live out of state, then your dealership is in the state of Arizona, but you put your home state as well. And then you put the approximate date that you're going to be starting your new business. And then you can simply print it up. It's going to look just like this right here. This is your employer identification number document that's going to have your dealership name and address. And there at the very top right is your brand new employer identification number that you need to record. That's going to go on your taxes and things like that. So this shows the state of Arizona that you are in fact going to pay taxes on your newfound income. So you can go out and pay $500 or $600 to a company to do that for you, or you can do it right there like I just showed you. If you have any questions, you can actually call the IRS directly at 800-829-4933 or drop them an email. Or just go to the website and do that. And they will actually answer that phone number. So I wanted to show you how to get your employer identification number. This is going to be a requirement for every business entity in the state unless you're a sole proprietor with no employees. Now, if you're a sole proprietor with employees, that is actually possible, then you will still need an employer identification number. And once again, I hope you are finding this information very valuable as you get ready to start your new business.